say 11 o'clock. Okay, here we go. Hello, everybody, and welcome back. I'm Andrea Kanoki. I'm your host with From Mrs. to Ms. I have a wonderful guest with us today. We have the amazing Marysol James in the house with us. Hi, how are you?
Hi, Andrea. It's good to be here. Thank
Oh,
you.
absolutely. I'm excited to have you. And let me tell you guys a little bit about Marysol. This is a very exciting episode and kind of different than what we've been normally doing, but I am really intrigued by this. So we're going to go from there. So Marysol James, she was raised in a small town in Canada. I'm from Canada and is still a small town girl at heart. She's a cancer survivor. Wow. A cinnamon bun lover and a
Oh,
hardcore caffeine addict. To date, Marysol has published 30 steamy, sexy, slinky contemporary romance spread over 6 different series, including the best-selling Unseen Enemy, Dangerous Curves, and The Road Devil's MC series. Her books incorporate action and adventure, suspense, military elements, and some surprising twists and turns. So this is very exciting. And I've seen a lot of the covers of these books as well, which I see where we get the steamy, the slinky, the sexy from, because they are hot, girl. Those men are hot.
yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
actually just redesigned all my covers, not even
Really?
3 months ago. So those are all brand
Oh,
new
brand
covers.
new. So this is
Yeah.
exciting. Okay, so let's start at the beginning. So how did you become a steamy, sexy romance novel author? And what inspired you? Like, where did this come from? Why did you start writing these kinds of novels?
I totally by accident.
Oh,
It's one of these, yeah, it's one of these fluke things that sometimes life just takes you in this completely bizarre direction. And this is
yes.
one of those times. So
Okay.
what actually happened was uh, I was living in Poland at the time,
Okay.
um, and I was working for a company that was downsizing, going under. Everything was a disaster. So I
Yeah.
lost my job, and I had 2 small children at home. So I kind of didn't know what to do with myself. I was
Mm.
frantically job hunting. Um, and I had written some contemporary literature books, but not romance, like
Oh,
really serious, more dark noir, um, based in Canada with some spiritual elements. Like one of my characters works at a mortuary, and she can converse with the dead
oh
bodies, and
my.
she helps solve crimes. Like so, and there's like a strong native presence in my books.
Yeah.
I've written a bunch of very sort of, again, dark, twisty, turny short stories.
Yeah.
And so I had been doing this and publishing them, and they were
Okay.
getting really good reviews, but they
Uh-huh.
just weren't selling.
Okay.
So while I was off work, I did this thing called NaNoWriMo. Have you ever
Oh,
heard of it?
I have not.
It's short for National Novel Writing Month. And
Okay.
it's every November. And the challenge is to write 50,000 words in 30 days.
Oh my
And
gosh.
you don't edit, you don't care, you just sort of get it
You
out
just
on the
write.
page. You just write, and that's the challenge. And
Okay.
it's all online, but they also have um, real meetings in person for your
Okay.
local cities. So I was
Okay.
going to the ones in Warsaw. Well, I was fired in the spring,
Uh-huh.
and that was the first year NaNoWriMo had something called a summer camp, where it was a virtual online cabin.
Oh, cool.
So there I was. I was broke. I was unemployed. I
Uh-huh.
was scared to death. I had just finished my second book, which was extremely dark and just heavy and ponderous, and oh God, you know.
Yeah.
I was in this cabin with these 2 women named Ruby and Angie. And the three of us really bonded on this online cabin. And I finished my book in 2 weeks. And I said to
Wow.
them, well, I finished my book, it's done now. I really need to finish the next 2 weeks of summer camp, but I don't really want to. I need a break. Like, my
Yeah.
life is hard, my life is dark. I can't write any more dark drama. And they said, well, as a joke, they said, why don't you write the exact opposite of that? Why don't you write a romance novel? And
Okay.
I laughed and laughed and laughed because I said, well, I've never read a romance novel. I'm not a romance writer. I
Yeah.
don't know the first thing. But they said, you know what? Just, it's a palate cleanser. It's 2 weeks. Just
Mm.
rack up your 50,000 words any way you can. Just do it.
Hmm.
So I said, fine. And then the three of us came up with sort of what I thought was the cheesiest, most ridiculous sort of romance thing. It was like a city girl inherits a ranch full of sexy cowboys who all hate her.
Sounds
And,
amazing.
she walks around in her high heels and she doesn't fit. And, and that there's this scowly cowboy who looks great in his jeans, like
Yeah.
everything you can imagine.
Yeah.
But I even poke fun at romance novels in the novel because nobody was supposed to read this thing. It was a joke. So I wrote it,
Yeah.
laughed the whole way through it, had a wonderful time,
It sounds like it.
and then told my friends about it. And they
Uh-huh.
said, "Well, you have to publish it." I said, "I'm not publishing this thing.
Yeah.
It was fun, right?"
Yeah.
They said, "Publish it, publish it." So I made up a name because I was writing my other books under my real name. So
Okay.
I made up a writer's name, published it on Amazon, and just left it. And that summer, it became a best-selling
Oh my gosh.
novel. So suddenly, I didn't really have too many money worries for about
Yeah.
3 months.
Yeah.
Um, and then Angie and Ruby said, "Well, now you've got to, I mean, the people have to find you. Start a Facebook page for your
Yeah.
author." And I said, "Well, I mean, I'm not writing another one." And they said, "Well, just do it." So I did. And then all these followers found me, and where's book two? And I kept thinking,
What?
there is no book two. There wasn't
Yeah.
even supposed to, like, I wrote book one in 2 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
So finally, and I hadn't found a job yet.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, well, I'll write book two. So I
Yeah.
did. Best-selling
Oh my
novel,
gosh.
top 100 on Amazon.
How crazy is that when you least
And so
expect it?
then next thing I knew, I had the money to kind of support our lives
Yeah.
while I was still job hunting. And no job came, and no job came, and the offers weren't great. And I
Yeah.
just kept writing. And then I got tired of sexy cowboys. So I
Uh-huh.
switched over to MMA fighters. And I did that for a little while, and those were all did well. And
Uh-huh.
then my big break was the Unseen Enemy series. That was the
Okay.
first one where I became a top 100 Amazon best-selling writer. Like my
Oh my
books
God.
weren't top 100, I was top
You
100.
were. Good for
Yeah.
you. Wow.
So that makes you an all-star on Amazon or something. I can't
Mm,
remember. And that's when it
congrats.
took off. And that's when I thought to myself, you know what?
I'm on to
What,
something.
what am I doing? Why am I pretending this isn't my job now?
Yeah.
And so that's
Oh,
how I got into it completely by accident.
wow.
Completely.
What a great story though. And kind of
Thank
like
you.
love, right? It happens when you least expect it. And something
Yeah.
just kind of comes along when you don't know that's going to happen. So that is so
And
cool.
I dedicated the first book, Open Skies,
Yeah.
to Ruby and Angie because, of
Yeah.
course, they were the ones who started me on this path. They had
Yeah.
no idea what they were doing at the time,
Wow.
but it's because of them that I have written 30 books because they
Wow.
pushed and pushed me and pushed me. And then they said, "Well, publish it." And I kept protesting, like, I'm a
Yeah.
serious writer, you know? I had all these horrible ideas about romance, and I was
Yeah.
wrong about all of it. Um, and it's because of them that I just bit the bullet and did it. And this is
Yeah.
why I am here today.
How cool is that? And so 30 novels you've written now, which is
Yeah.
incredible. And I'm assuming you're just going to keep going. You're not done yet.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
writing
Yeah.
them now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So where does your inspiration come from? So like how much of the content of the books are pulled from your real life as opposed to just you making it up?
Um, I would say that because of the kind of romance that I write, it's
Uh,
contemporary romance. So
okay.
it's set in modern times and it's real people. So it's not like fantasy, it's not science fiction romance, it's not
Hmm.
Victorian, it's here and now.
Yeah.
So I honestly pull a lot of my ideas from just what I see in the news. So a
Mm.
lot of my books deal with things like what you'd call sort of modern issues. So, for example, one of my heroines, her mother needed a kidney transplant,
Okay.
and healthcare, and all my stories are based in the United States, in Colorado.
Okay.
So the healthcare system over there is you pay to play. Well,
Hmm.
they didn't have sort of $150,000 sitting around for the kidney transplant. So
Yeah.
my heroine had to go take a commission from her cheating, lying, scum-sucking ex-boyfriend to get the money to pay for the mother's transplant, because
Wow.
that's the reality that when you need money to pay for
Yeah.
healthcare in the United States, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
So I pull things like that. I also look at things like violence towards women, which is a
Okay.
serious issue. A lot of my heroines, I would say, have damaged backgrounds
Mm-hmm.
or experiences like that.
Mm-hmm.
One of my heroines has an eating disorder, a quite serious one, based on her history of being a ballerina, who
Oh,
then injured her leg and had couldn't do anything else and fell into depression and
yeah.
gained weight and then realized and kind of went back to that eating disordered mentality and physicality.
Mm.
So a lot of my ideas honestly just come from quite serious, realistic, modern problems that we,
Oh,
well, if we don't deal with personally,
yeah.
we know someone who does.
Yeah.
Single motherhood, cancer, for
Mm-hmm.
example. One of my heroines has cancer. Another one has a stalker. So this is kind of what leads to the drama and the suspense a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But there's also my men, a lot of them are post-military. They're dealing with PTSD. They've lost limbs in
Mm-hmm.
combat, and they're trying to figure out how to have a healthy romantic relationship while missing an arm or a leg,
Mm-hmm.
and how to feel attractive and manly and sexy.
Yeah.
So a lot of my inspiration honestly just comes from looking around and seeing what people are realistically dealing with, and then
Yeah.
asking myself, how do you find romance in
In
this
this scenario,
modern
yeah.
landscape? Yeah.
Wow, that's a really cool concept because it's super relatable to people, like you said, that they can just pick up the books, which is why I'm sure they did so well, because they can put themselves in that situation and find one
Unfortunately,
that,
yeah.
yeah, and find one that totally, might relate to them personally.
Mm.
But then I find it interesting that then they somehow, you mix it into, they find love somehow with some steamy, sexy, hot man, I'm assuming. Do you have a certain age demographic that does better than others with
No,
these
that's the
books?
weird thing. I mean, I would have thought kind of 30s and 40s.
Yeah.
But I get emails and messages from people well into their 60s, their 70s. One woman actually sent me a beautiful message on Facebook saying that she volunteers at a senior center somewhere in
Mhm.
the United States.
Okay.
And she brings my books to the seniors at the senior center. At the moment,
Oh
I
my.
have one book in print. Only one book is in print. I'm working
Okay.
on my other books in print.
Yeah.
And she bought the print version of this one book, Dangerous Curves. And she
Mhm.
brought it to the senior center and handed it off to the woman, I guess, that she spends the most time with. Loved it. So this book started making the rounds of the senior center. And this woman who wrote me, my reader,
Yeah.
she told me that the people, the men as well, were reading it. They would
Yeah.
sit in kind of the common room of the senior center and talk about my book, and they would get very animated, sort of talking about the characters and why did he do this and why did she say this and why did she break up with him? Couldn't she see he loved her? And she said it got quite like heated.
Yeah. Which is
So
what
it
you
would
want.
appear that there's no boundary
Yes.
on the age of romance.
Absolutely. And so okay, so these books, are they, what scale, on a scale, are they a very 50 Shades of Grey kind of story, or is it more of just like a cute little love story, maybe a Nicholas Sparks book?
No.
No.
No, no. It's kind of interesting because I get some reviews on Amazon, and some people say that the stuff is filthy. There's swear words because I use
Oh,
quite explicit language in
sure.
the love scenes. It's horrible. They throw my book at the window. Worst thing they ever read. Other people say, oh, well, the love scenes are pretty tame. I've read racier. So I
Oh,
guess it depends on your
yeah.
comfort level.
Yeah.
So the books are not erotica.
Okay.
What separates kind of steamy romance from erotica tends to be the plot and the character development. Is there more emphasis on the story or is there more emphasis on the sex? And my sex scenes are very graphic, I have to
Okay.
admit. They really
Okay.
are. But they're not just there for the sake of being there. They're
Yeah.
there to advance the story. The sex scenes make sense with the character development
Yeah.
and how they come together and what they see in each other.
Yeah.
So I would say, I mean, yeah, they're pretty steamy, I would say. They're not sweet little love scenes. No,
Yeah.
they get pretty graphic, but there's a reason for it. Let's just put
Okay.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, and that makes sense. But so then what is, if you can share with us kind of your process for writing the more intimate scenes, so where do you pull that stuff from?
It's
Hmm.
really funny because the very first love scene I ever wrote in the sexy cowboy book that was
Uh-huh.
like not supposed to be anything more than just a way to spend 2 weeks, I needed a drink before.
Yeah. And a cigarette after.
I was a nervous wreck. And it it comes really late in the book. I mean,
Okay.
really late in the book.
Okay.
Sort
Okay.
of 3/4 of the way through. And that was for two reasons. First, because Cowboy Jake despised City Girl Julie. I mean, they hated each other. So it would have
Okay.
made no sense. So they had to have the thawing and getting to know each other as they really are,
Mm.
not as they thought they were
Hmm.
thing. So that, and that takes time, it took
Yeah.
time. But also, I think I was putting it off because I couldn't quite bring myself to get their clothes off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm. So then once I kind of got there, it was fine. But I needed a glass of wine. And then
Yeah.
I just closed my eyes and just typed, as
Started
fast.
writing.
I can't do it. I can't watch what I'm doing. But it really felt like I was peeping through somebody's bedroom window.
Oh,
Like it
interesting.
felt like I was a voyeur who wasn't supposed to be there. I'm
Yeah.
far over that now, but I
Yeah.
remember that first initial writing it in such graphic detail was difficult for me.
Yeah.
But
I would
now,
think it would be for anybody. I mean, even
yeah,
when you're writing sometimes in your diary or your journal, I'll do that sometimes and I start writing. I'm like, oh, it just sounds so like, what if somebody read this? Or, so interesting.
well, I remember nobody was supposed to read it is the other
Yeah.
thing, right? Like I
Yeah.
just so and I was thinking I can just, jump over this part. Like it can be one of those like they went upstairs the next morning. But no, I had to do it. It had to be done. So I did it.
Yes. Yeah.
But now, like I said, the way I kind of work up to writing those really intimate scenes is I now understand the purpose that they serve.
Mm.
So, for example, I have my two characters who start from their own points of damage, baggage, vulnerability, angst, whatever.
Yeah.
We all start from somewhere,
Yeah.
and they find each other.
Yeah.
And the starting point is always different for my characters. Sometimes they really can't stand each other. Sometimes there's an instant attraction, a one night stand. Sometimes there's an attraction, but you don't see each other for a while. Sometimes
Mm.
it's a friend of a friend who introduces you. And
Yeah.
they kind of have two books where they're in the periphery and they get together in the third book. It's their book. So there's
Yeah.
a build up to friendship. So what I've come to realize is that when I write the sex scenes, they have to be a reflection of what's happening in the
Yeah.
relationship and with the characters individually. So if I have a female character who's been sexually abused or assaulted in some horrible way, well,
Hmm.
there has to be a building up of trust period with him as a friend.
Smart. Yeah.
And then there has to be all the conversations about what happens if I panic, what happens if, like, what do I do if I scare you? So we have to have all
Mm.
those conversations where there's
Mm.
vulnerability on both sides. And then, so the first sex scene will be gentle, it will be tender, it will be loving, it will be slow, it will be a lot of checking in.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and she'll be surprised. She'll be maybe even amazed at
Yeah.
the fact that she can be vulnerable with him. So then the sex scene after that will probably be more, it'll be more playful. It'll be, she's more comfortable now. And then maybe the next scene will be she initiates it. And it's really quite dramatic and passionate and, everything she's wanted
Yeah.
all these years. She finally has a place where it's safe to be that person again, to be sexual.
Yeah.
So once I understand where my characters are and how they're kind
Mhm.
of how the relationship is developing and evolving, the sex scenes become very natural.
Mm.
And I write them depending on my characters' emotional states
Mhm.
and where they are in the relationship. Because when you
Mm.
first start in a relationship, the sex is one thing, but then as you grow into the relationship, the sex changes, it gets better usually,
Hopefully. Yeah.
more free with your
Yeah.
body, you're a lot more comfortable. They know your body, you know theirs. And all of that is reflected in my
Oh,
sex scene.
wow.
So it's not like a one size fits all kind of sex scene. I
Yeah.
make them very personal and tailored to my characters'
Mm.
emotional states
Oh, I
and
love that.
where they are in the relationship.
Yeah. And I love how you explained that because it's like true life, it's a progression. And all of these scenarios are probably so real, I'm sure, to a lot of the listeners out there that are like, oh, I can truly understand that and want to read your book because they want to see like how, how maybe they can get from that place of being totally, not being able to be vulnerable with somebody and then getting to a place where they can be. So I would
Mm.
think that would be so cool. I've never really been, I'm not a huge reader. I just tend to fall asleep. It doesn't, never works great for me. I know my mind starts wandering and then I have to go back a few pages. I wish I was because I love like how people react to books and they get so much out of books. It's
Yeah.
like running for me where I'm like, people are like, I love to run. It just frees my mind. I could do all this stuff. And for me, I'm like, all I can think about is getting done with this run, And so
I want to go home and have a donuts. Why am I doing this?
yes, that's it. That's all I want to do. And so I think about that with books and but I've been able to listen to, sometimes audio does better for me, but
Yeah.
I would
One of
love.
my series is on audio.
Oh, see, I need to listen
Oh,
to something like that because I do really well listening in a car on a drive, to things like that. I listen to a lot of podcasts and stuff like that when I'm driving. So that's probably what I need to do because I do enjoy a good sex scene. So
Unseen Enemy is my only series that's
okay.
currently on audio. So it's on Audible, I think it's
Okay.
called. So
Yeah.
if you're interested, try book one.
I would love that.
It's
Unseen Enemy.
it's like I said, and it's the first series that really made my writing career take off. It's the
Wow.
series that connected with people the most
The
and
most.
continues to really be the one when people say, I found you because of Unseen Enemy. That seems
Oh,
to be the one that attracts people's attention the
oh,
most.
amazing. So
That
I
one's
love, yeah, I love that. And hopefully the listeners will tune into that too and go grab it. Would be amazing to get started on that. So what are some of your favorite tropes or like ideas that you've had and how do you kind of put your unique spin on them? Like how do you make each one different? How do you come up with that?
well, my overall favorite trope has got to be the alpha male trope.
Mm.
I love a good alpha male.
Yes, I do too.
Bring them
It's
on.
hot, hot,
They're
hot.
this, they're everything that I sort of like fantasize about. And I think a
Yeah.
lot of women just really like a strong man.
Hmm.
Having said that, a lot of because since writing romance, I've started reading romance to kind of
Yeah.
see how else people write. And I've read a lot of really dark romance or mafia romance where there's
Yeah.
the alpha man, but he's really a dick. Like from beginning
Yeah.
to end, there's no
Yeah.
character expression. And a lot of readers like that. I don't
Mhm.
happen to like that.
Mhm.
So the way I try to sort of put my unique spin on it is I really try to my alpha men can be not the greatest people on paper. For example, my motorcycle club guys are all what former 1% motorcycle guys. When we meet them in the first book of the Road Devils MC, they've opted out of the criminal life for the past couple of
Mhm.
years. They've really tried to go straight. They've really tried to go legit, but they kind of keep getting sucked back into that world. It's a hard world to leave, really.
Yeah.
And you see these sides of them that are not, you get glimpses of who they must have been during the worst days of the
Mhm.
motorcycle club. Um, but what I've always tried to do with my characters, my alpha men, is give them a really strong sense of morality that doesn't necessarily fall within what we would call legal morality. Do you know
Okay.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, Motorcycle Club has its own code. My guys who are in the Dangerous Curves series, they're basically mercenaries for hire. They have their own code. They
Mhm.
work with the cops, but they will cross the legal line to go get the kidnapped kid or to, save the sex trafficking victims. They're willing to do
Okay.
something legal for what they consider the greater good, their
Okay.
morality. So I always try to make my alpha men, their moral compasses don't quite point north,
Yeah.
but they have their code, and it's a code that's higher than the code of God. It's higher than religion. It's higher than law. It's something internal that they all have,
Mm.
and it guides their life. And they They protect what's theirs. If they love you, they will protect you with till their last breath. And I think that kind of alpha male is very attractive because
Yeah.
there's this idea that if they love you or if they feel connected to you,
Hmm.
they will do what it takes to protect you and help you and say, and whatever you need, they will
Yeah.
be there for it. So I try to make my alpha men not traditionally alpha men.
Yeah.
They're very tough men, but they, at the end of the day, they will protect what's theirs.
Oh, I
And
love it.
I also try to make, the other thing I try to do with them is I really try to introduce vulnerability into the, because these men don't tend to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And some alpha men tropes, the man never cracks ever. I don't like that. I like
Mhm.
my alpha men to be vulnerable with her, whoever she is.
Yeah.
And then the character development can go, the relationship can grow, the level of understanding between them becomes more intimate. So then the sex
Mhm.
scenes become more intimate because real intimacy isn't physical, it's emotional.
Yep.
Can't have true emotional intimacy without vulnerability and openness. So at some point, all of my men will open up about
Oh.
wherever they come from, whatever's happened to them in the past, whether it's my military guys with their PTSD and why, um, my heroes who have lost parents in tragic accidents, or, just a rough single mother upbringing, violence from a father or stepfather. And they've become hard men because of these things.
Mhm.
But with the right woman, they feel safe enough to be open. And that's really
Mm.
important. And I would say probably the third thing that I do that's a bit different as well, that I
Okay.
think a bit of a spin is I really, my alpha men all have close male friendships. Other alpha men, to be sure, with their own
Yeah.
stories and their own whatever,
Yeah.
but they they have really good relationships with other men. So when I have my men in a room with their male friends and they're talking, they speak a certain way. But if one of them needs something or has a problem, or one of them has a particular skill or asset of some kind that can help one of his friends,
Mhm.
they step up immediately, and it's not transactional. There's
Mhm.
no expectation of payment. There's no, if you do this for me, I'll do this for you. It's just men stepping up to support other men without a big fanfare, but doing the right thing and being there for their male friends,
Mm.
which I don't think gets talked about nearly enough. So I really make a point of making sure my male friends have strong male friendships.
Oh,
Yeah.
these are, yeah, like such great things. I think that it helps people to kind of hear those certain situations. And even I'm sure men read your books as well. Is it mainly women that you have usually? You don't know, or
I have received emails from men, yes.
yeah.
And they've been surprisingly, because I didn't really think about it, that they said, it's very rare to see alpha males with like these kinds of friendships with other
Yeah.
alpha males where they step up and support each other,
Yeah.
brothers. And I thought about it and I thought, I just did it without really thinking about it. I just
Yeah.
thought it was important that these men had their own safe place,
Hmm.
not just with their significant other, the female character, but with other men. So that's why I've continued that quite consciously, that
Yeah.
men have male friends.
And I think that's a very attractive quality. I mean, I love, to see that where men can be vulnerable with other men and help out and do things. They're not always in that beating their chest, alpha position. Although
Yeah.
I do like a strong alpha male. I mean, I have no no problem with that. Of course, who doesn't? But yeah, that is a very sexy quality to see them kind of let down their wall a little bit and let somebody in that's not necessarily a female, but somebody that they can trust as a male.
Well, again, I think maybe that's why my first Unseen Enemy book did so well. It's called Enemy Within,
Yeah.
and my female character has cancer. This is not a spoiler, it's literally in the
Okay.
synopsis. Is the whole point. She has cancer, and she kind of goes into this bar. She's received the diagnosis, and it's going to be tough. She's got a tough road ahead of her. So she decides to have this kind of last normal night before she becomes the girl with cancer.
Mhm.
She goes and has a one night stand with this hot ex-military guy, just
Uh-huh.
pure sex, just fine. And she leaves before he gets up in the morning, and that's it. And then they meet up sort of by accident a few weeks later. And they decide they're just going to have this friends with benefits, just purely sex relationship because she can't handle more and he's really not good at relationships. He's carrying his PTSD from Afghanistan. So they'll have sex and that's it. And they can both end it whenever they want. There's no personal questions, there's no relationship stuff going on here. Well, we can all see where this is going.
Yeah.
Clearly, they start to develop real feelings for each other, but she has never told him about her cancer, and he's never told her about what happened back in Afghanistan. So when it all kind of comes to light, where Dean and his friends find out that Emma does actually have cancer, this is what's happening with her. The way that the men step up to support not just her and her friends, but their friend, who is a wreck now that he's decided he actually really loves this woman. He finds out this devastating health prognosis for her.
Yeah.
So the way the men step up to support him was really, really important. That was a really important thing that I wanted to include. And I think the readers really responded to that part of it,
Yeah.
which I liked seeing that response because
Yeah.
I think it's really great when men have strong, non-transactional, supportive friendships.
Absolutely. So you've done 30 books and you're still going. How do you continue to keep these books just like the ideas fresh? So everyone seems like a new book, a new idea. How do you do that?
I think I don't know. Actually, I don't
Good
know.
answer.
I can ask this a lot, but I have a theory perhaps that it's because I write my books as series. None of them are really standalone books. So I think that what happens, the reason they kind of stay fresh and original is because I have my first couple in the first book. And I tend to introduce, because they all have friends, like they all have strong
Oh,
friend
so you
groups.
can play off of those and do another story and a friend couple too.
Exactly.
Ooh.
So, or I'll introduce periphery characters. For example, one of my characters is a female psychologist who specializes in trauma that women have experienced. So a lot
Mm.
of my heroines have been to her in a professional way. So we hear
Hmm.
about Francine long before we kind of meet her. And then
Hmm.
she appears a couple of times in a few books. And then eventually Francine gets her own book. So you know who she is. You have a sense of who Francine is. So
Ah,
by the time it's time for her book, um, we don't need. She's not just brought in cold, you
yeah.
know. And so I do that a lot. Where the first book, I'll introduce the friend groups. I'll introduce the parents. I'll introduce professionals. There's a doctor who works at the emergency room who pops up and all. Whenever my characters end up in the ER, he's there working. He eventually gets his own book.
Yay.
Exactly. So, and also my characters will cross series.
Oh.
So, for example, King, one of my favorite characters, who's a big fan favorite, he's actually in the Dangerous Curve series. He's the guy who runs King's Men, the mercenaries for hire, who kind of
Hmm.
cross the legal line a little bit. So he's got the second book in the Dangerous Curve series. But because he's kind of a bodyguard, mercenary for hire, the ex-military guys know who he is. So when they need help, King pops over to the Unseen Enemy series and
Oh.
save the damsel in distress who's been kidnapped. And when the motorcycle club guys need some really dirty work done, they call King and he pops over to the Road Devils MC series. And so it makes sense that these kinds of men, being
Yeah.
who they are, backgrounds, would know each other. Um, and I think that's what keeps the series kind of fresh and exciting
Yeah.
is my readers say they never know who is going to appear. It just because it's not his series or just not her series
Yeah.
doesn't mean you're not going to see them. And they love that when my
Yeah.
characters,
I love
travel.
that. I think everybody loves a good cameo. When somebody shows up in a movie, Channing Tatum does it a lot. I think Brad Pitt too, and they show up and I'm like, it's just exciting because it's familiar and it's something, I'm sure with King, they're like, oh, I know who
It's
this is.
King. He's back.
Yeah.
He's not even a
Yeah.
series, but he's here.
Yeah, and it kind of ties it all together. So that I think
Yeah.
that's really, really cool writing. So do you ever like base your characters on like real people you know, or is it always just fictional people?
95% fictional, like
Okay.
completely pulled out of my head, like I said, but inspired by kind of what's happening in the modern landscape and just
Yeah.
imagining who, like who, who, what, what does it look like when you come back from Afghanistan
Mhm.
after being there for years and you return without a hand and your fiance can't stand the sight of you?
Yeah.
Who is that person? You know?
Yep.
So I really, 95% of it is just people I just imagine. I just
Yeah.
make them up out of whole cloth, but I know they have to exist somewhere.
Yeah. Somewhere. How cool is
But I would
that?
say that probably there have been three characters based on real people. The
Mhm.
one based on my grandmother, actually, an Open Skies character named Maddie, who's this
Mhm.
old woman who works at the stables. She's like 100 years old, and she's just beautiful and strong and
Mhm.
out in nature and works with her hands and doesn't take any crap from the men. So my grandmother definitely inspired
That's right.
Maddie. And the second one would probably be Annie,
Uh-huh.
who is a single mother, and so she's kind of an amalgamation of all the women I know
Mhm.
who have been single mothers, that incredible grit and the strength. And you get up every day and you just keep going and you put it all aside for your kids. And um, you don't really want anything for yourself. So I was happy to give her her own book where
Yeah.
she finally gets something for herself. But it's the last book in the series. Her daughter's book is the first book in the series, and Annie's book is the last
Mhm.
book in the series. And in between, her daughter, who has an autistic brother, a twin brother,
Mm.
they both grow and go into relationships and move away from home. And Annie is suddenly free
Yeah.
to find love for herself. So she's not based on any one person. She's based on a lot of women
Yeah.
that and I would probably say that Julie, the city girl from the very first book I ever wrote, is probably loosely based on me. She's probably the only one that I would say was based on me in terms of how she coped with stressful situations. She tended to be very cold and kind of pull back and emotionless and zone out. And she had no real confidence of how she presented herself. So she always had to be perfect in how she got total control over her
Mm.
appearance because she couldn't stand being out of control at all.
Yeah.
And I was very much like that when I was younger, sort of in my 20s.
Yeah.
And like, 'cause it was my first book and I wasn't taking it seriously, I think I just wrote a female character that I was familiar with.
Yeah.
So when I look at Julie, I see a lot of who I was sort of 25 years ago. I'm not like that now, but when I
Yeah.
look at Julie, I think I know where I got that from because that is how I would have reacted to that situation.
Oh,
So
that's
but besides
interesting.
those three characters, honestly, no,
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 just kind
based
of
on
made up.
anybody. Yeah.
Wow. So, speaking about your life, I know I read that you were kind of single and dating. Are you still in that same area now? And if
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. And so how's that experience been for you, first of all? And do you ever find yourself kind of blurring the lines between reality and fiction when you are dating? Like, I feel like if I was writing all of these romance novels, then when I am in like an intimate moment, I feel like I would be overdoing it. I'm like, oh, I'm here, you're damsel in distress. And I already do that a lot because, you tend to take things from movies and stuff and you picture that everything is going to be that way. I used to get caught up in that a lot and I didn't understand why. I'm like, this is how love is supposed to be, all these Disney movies and stuff. So I
Yeah.
can imagine that would get a little blurred for you. How's that been?
Well, it's actually kind of strange because I left my relationship 10 months ago. I walked away from him.
Oh.
And it was a very abusive relationship,
Mm.
actually, that I was in for 6 years, although the last 3 years were when it started during lockdown. The
Okay.
abuse started during lockdown. So I was kind of trapped in this situation. I got myself out of it 10 months ago. And honestly, I've spent the past 10 months doing therapy and
Oh
doing a lot
yeah.
of work on myself. And I found an amazing life coach who kind of, because the therapist was all about looking to the past, and
Yep.
my life coach was about looking to the future. So I've done a lot of work on myself over the past 10
Mm,
months.
good for you.
So I am just now, just like the past 2 weeks, starting to sort of date, you
Yeah.
know? And in terms of anything physical,
Yeah.
I am not there yet. I am
Yep.
not there yet at all. But I know that I'm getting closer to that part of the dating
Yeah.
experience and the relationship experience. And this is kind of where I look back on my female characters,
Uh-huh.
like, okay, I know how this is probably going to go with the right guy, like I'll meet him and there'll be a connection and I can trust him. I can talk to him about what's happened and we can work through it together and
Mhm.
work towards a really fun, sexy, physical relationship.
Sure.
But there has to be that trust and vulnerability first. So
Yeah.
I'm very much at that point of my dating life. And fingers crossed, I think I have found one guy who,
Ooh.
yeah.
That's exciting. I know. I'm always afraid to like jinx it or put it on here. I've
I don't
done it
want
so
to jinx
many
it,
times.
but I've told him like, kind of what's happened. I've told him where I've come from. I told him what I've been doing for the past 10 months. And he's mature. He's got his life together. He's an emotionally healthy person. He is looking for sort of one person to be with,
Hmm.
to grow something with and build something with. And he doesn't just kind of want the one night stand and then we're
Yeah.
out of here. He wants something that will get better the more you
Yep.
get to know his bodies. So he is yeah, he's kind of like the guy in my book, the one that you can go to and be honest and lay all the cards on the table and say, look, this is where I'm coming from. This is the baggage.
Yeah.
Help me set it down because I'd really love to set it down in front of you. And let's just take it from there.
Yeah.
So that's where I am in my
Oh,
dating life at the moment. I'm
okay. I
just
love this. I
starting.
have a couple things to touch on here. So first of all,
Okay.
um, I'm sorry what you went through with the
Thank you.
abuse and congrats and just everything to you for getting out of that, for standing up for
Mm,
yourself, because we've talked about that on previous episodes and it's not easy, of course, and
mm.
getting yourself into a better place. So that's amazing that
Wow.
you did that. Yeah, absolutely. And then the next thing I love is that you have worked on yourself for the past 10 months, because that's something I keep preaching. And I have gone through the married for a long period of time, the divorce, and just hit the ground running and dating, 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 dating
Mm,
until it's not until the last maybe 10 months or so myself that I've just really put in the work and trying to work on loving myself. And it's amazing how you then attract that,
mm,
once you do and you find yourself in a healthier place because you're not going to tolerate what you did before and you're not
mhm.
going to settle for, whatever you did before. And I myself have somebody that I am dating now that is I know all of those things as you're saying it.
Wonderful.
It's interesting, and I haven't really talked about him too much, but like, and hopefully we'll still be together by the time this episode comes out. But
Couple
very,
fingers
I
crossed.
know, and very much the same thing. And I myself am very gun shy. I'm very like skeptical about, his fourthness with me. Is that a word? Fourthness, whatever. How he is with me, and he's very much all in, and he's like, there isn't anything I wouldn't do for you. And you can feel safe with me. Our communication is there, our affection is there, everything is there. And I am like, oh, I can't breathe. Like, stand off. I'm very much like that, and I think that's because I just haven't felt that before. I haven't had somebody who's been like that because not that I've been in something abusive, but I've been in, where I've been cheated on. I've been in those different situations, and all of those take a toll on you over the time, right? And they chip away at things you believed how things would be. And so I think it's very nice to have somebody like that, and I'm taking it very slowly. And so I love that for you as well, because it feels like you have put in the work, you know what you're looking for, and then you're attracting somebody who wants those same things instead of the one night stands, which I hate and don't like. So
Mm. Well, the
I
one
love it.
thing I knew when I left my ex, well, I mean, when I left, I thought I'm never having a relationship again, and I was
Yeah.
fine with it. I was like, this is the answer.
Yeah.
Just no more of these people, you know, just no more men. There's so much work.
Yeah.
And I have a son, like I have a 17-year-old son. So I was very focused on settling him into this new life because
Oh,
he and I
yeah.
had to, we moved to a new city. He started college. Like it was a whole
Wow. A
thing.
whole
You know,
pick up and go. Yeah. Good for
starting
you.
from zero,
Mhm.
starting from absolute, I didn't know a soul in the city, you know, neither.
Mhm.
So we really picked up and started again.
Yeah.
And I was just really focused. It was almost like a gritting teeth determination that I was going to build this new life. God damn it, you know?
Mhm.
But it wasn't a lot of fun. And it wasn't sort of until the past, I'd say 4 months, that I really became really happy in who I
Yeah.
am, happy with my life, really fulfilled, really proud of myself as
Yeah.
well. Because I hadn't been proud. I mean, I was in escape mode and
Yep.
survival mode for 6 months because
Yeah.
you have to figure this out because
Mhm.
there's me, kid, and now it's just me. And um, but the past 4 months, I figured it out.
Good for you.
And as soon as it's weird because as soon as you are so happy in your life and you're so happy being single and you're so fulfilled and you're so at peace, if there's never a man again, that's totally cool.
Yeah.
That is actually the moment when you are so ready for a healthy, adult, respectful, sexy, fun relationship because
Mhm.
you're so okay with who you are. You're so okay with where you are that you are a great partner at that time. And
Yes.
that's when the healthy men come around.
Oh,
And
that's
it's
so well
weird because
said. And
as soon as you're like, I'm fine without a man, boop, there he is.
it couldn't be more true, Marysol. It really is. And I feel that way. I'm in the mode of like, I see him for a couple days and then I'm like, okay, time to go home because I love my independence and my alone time. And I'm really trying to be careful not to let that overcome me, or outweigh actually meeting somebody because I think that can happen pretty quick. We become really content in, sitting in solace and just being by ourselves and doing our things. I love to just get on my couch and have my favorite food and watch a movie and nobody trying to like talk in my ear. I don't have to tell anybody to stop or
Mm,
not touch me and I think we can get caught up in that. So I really try not to allow myself to stick in that spot because I think like you said, I think I'd be like, I'm good by myself now, and that is growth in itself, for both of us.
mm,
So,
totally.
and so where did you meet this guy? Where are you finding your dates?
Online.
Online. Yes. No,
Online, a dating
as we
site.
all
No,
are. Yeah.
just online.
Yeah. And how's that been?
And then we chat on the dating site. Well, there have
Yeah.
been quite a few that
Yeah.
kind of appeared. And I mean, good-looking guys, physically, this one, oh my God, it's like he walked off the cover of one of my novels. I mean, he was just but he's just looking for a friend with benefits. He's kind of like the one night stand, maybe
Yeah.
twice a month kind of guy.
Yep.
And I'm not that interested. I'm interested in this other guy who's just feels more stable. He feels
Yeah.
more permanent. He feels like somebody who would care about my growth and my ambitions and he would
Yeah.
support what I do and you know what I mean as opposed to just like okay we click physically and sexually, let's have some fun,
Yep.
we like each other and then we kind of go our separate ways and I'll see you in 2 weeks as
Yeah.
opposed to wanting to hear about my life or wanting to hear about what I'm doing or what I'm facing in terms of challenges and
Yeah.
wanting to be there if I want them to be there.
And I
um
think there's so much to be said
Sorry.
about that. No, that's okay. I think there's so much to be said about that. Because we can get caught up in the physical. I'm like that, many, many times for many years. I've been like, okay, I want him to be this tall and I want him to look like this and all these things. And then, it quickly changes to somebody, like you said, that makes you feel safe and
Yeah.
secure and puts you first, and somebody that truly cares about your well-being. That to me now is so significant and important. And the sex is the easy stuff. I mean, you can always find somebody out there who's going to have sex with you, and it's fine and it's okay and you can enjoy that moment. But there's nothing like having that person that is just looking at you in a way that, you didn't see coming, first of all, and you're just like, it makes you feel safe. and secure.
Yeah.
There's something really
Yes.
special about that. And I really often try to implore that with the listeners, is like to just take your time and working on yourself just like you did, and finding your self-acceptance and your self-love, because that's what you're going to attract back once you do that. And it's a whole different world. It really is.
Mhm.
So stop settling for the little one night stands. Those are the easy ones. Look for the stuff that's a little bit harder to find.
Well, the
Okay.
one thing I told myself was if I want to attract a quality man, I
Yeah.
have to be a quality woman.
There you
I have
go.
to be someone who has it together,
Hmm.
who, has my own career, who has my own money, who has a good relationship with my son,
Yep.
who takes care of things, who takes care of my health, who prioritizes my sleep, who goes and gets a manicure. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Takes care of myself, pampers myself,
Yes.
cherishes myself. I have to be a quality woman
Mhm.
who can look through kind of all of my experiences, all of my life, good, bad, all of it, and come to terms with it and embrace it, and not necessarily be okay with it, because I can't be okay with what happened with my ex, but
Mhm.
understand what to look for next time to make sure I don't go through that again. Because there were warning signs that I missed, or
Yep.
there were things that I let slide, or there were times when I should have left, but I didn't have the money because
Mhm.
I gave him financial control over things. Like you just
Wow.
mistake after mistake after mistake.
Yeah.
And if he were a healthy, good person, none of that would have mattered, but he
Mhm.
wasn't. And so when you're stuck in that situation, suddenly every bad decision you've ever made is it nails your feet to the floor. It really
Yeah.
does. And so I've spent time thinking, I cannot make those same decisions again. So this is what I look for. And if I start thinking I'm going to hand this over to him, I have to say, nope, stop. Don't do that. I
Yeah.
have to be a woman who knows her value and takes pride in that. So
Yeah.
that's what I've spent 10 months really doing. And as soon as I decided I was a woman of value, I was a woman who made herself a priority, I was a woman who had her ducks in a row,
Yep.
poof, here he is.
That's what we've been saying. I love it. I'm going to end on that note. That was so well said, Marysol. And I can't thank you enough for actually saying that, because it's just reiterating what I've been trying to convey to the listeners, over many, many episodes, and you just kind of buttoned it all up. So thank you for that.
I'm
So
glad that somehow all came full circle
it
without
did.
me
It
even
did.
knowing.
It's perfect. It's perfect. So, okay. So everybody tell us all where they can find you, your books, your social media handles, all of that good stuff. Where can they find?
Okay. The best place to go, because everything is there, is my website, which is www.marysoljames.com. And all of my book series are listed there. And if you click on any one of my series, all of my hot, sexy book covers will pop up for that series. You
Mm-hmm.
click on that book, it'll take you to Amazon. I'm only on Amazon, and it
Okay.
just Amazon US, Amazon Canada, whatever. Click on the one, and it will take you to my ebook. And in the case of Unseen Enemy, you'll see my audiobooks. They're all there.
Perfect.
Also, if you click on Contact Me, there's my Facebook page and there's my Instagram page. And I think there's also my Goodreads page.
Okay.
So that's
Wonderful.
just go through my website. Everything is there. It's the easiest way.
Perfect. And we'll add this in the description of the episode when it's out as well. So
Thank you.
before you go, I love to play a little from Mrs. to Ms. Fun Facts. It's just a would you rather game, very easy, 10 little questions.
I have
Some are
not
related.
played this since university. So, all right, I'm
All
ready.
right, you ready?
I feel like
Ready?
I need a beer in my hand for
I
this.
know, I
Go
know.
ahead.
To take a shot when you didn't do something. All right, number
Okay.
one, would you rather have an adventurous date exploring a new city together, or a cozy night in with a homemade dinner and movie?
The adventurous state in the unknown city. And definitely we have to hit an art gallery and in
Ah, I
very
love
important.
that.
Yeah.
Very cool. Okay, if on a deserted island, would you rather sunset skinny dip or midnight beach bonfire?
Oh, the bonfire. I'm
Bon-
Canadian. I'm
Yes.
from cottage country. If there isn't a bonfire, is it a night out?
Oh, no, it's not. We just heard
Bonfire.
you're out, out.
Out.
Uh, I know, I got rid of mine. Would you rather write a love triangle with two equally compelling love interests, or a forbidden romance with intense obstacles?
Oh, no, I'm not crazy about love triangles. I find them very manipulative. So I would
Mm.
go for the complicated, sort of intense, forbidden secret thing. No,
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind writing sort of a taboo romance at some
Yeah.
point. So I'd rather go over there.
Yeah, that sounds fun. I like that. Okay, would you rather explore a new adventurous activity with your partner that gets your heart racing or enjoy a slow, sensual evening of pampering and connection?
You know what? If he can give me a massage, it's yeah, I'm
So
right there.
good. It always everything, right?
I'm right there.
Ah,
Some candlelight, a glass of wine, give me a massage. We'll stay.
perfect. Love it. Number five, blindfolded surprises or playful role play.
I've actually done both,
No. I
and I love them
love
both.
it. I love it.
But if I could only choose one, the blindfold.
The blindfold.
Oh
So
yeah,
if you were
every
doing
time.
role play, do you have like a character that you would do? Do you ever pull them from your book? Oh, Julie's in the house.
No, it was more of a, oh God, this is kind of embarrassing, but I'll tell
We
you.
love it.
I'll tell just you and all your listeners. It was
Yes.
a role play situation where I rented a hotel room and I pretended I was his sexy stepmother. And
More. Tell me more. I'm loving it.
I'm blushing now. Oh my God. I haven't thought about this in years. Yeah, he was this incredibly hot, like 6'4" bodyguard
Yeah.
here in
Yeah.
England. And yeah, he just had this thing about role play. And he said, "That's
Oh,
you can be my stepmom, and I'm coming to the hotel room because you and my dad have had a fight, and you're staying here to get away from him for a few days. And I'm bringing you your stuff. Like I'm bringing you some stuff from home." And he showed up, and I was like slinky, sort of baby doll teddy
yeah.
thing. And I answered the door like that.
That was a show. And it worked well. It went well.
Oh my God. Oh my
That's
God.
so
Yeah.
funny. I never would have thought the stepmom route.
It was his idea. It was his idea.
One in Rome. Go with it. Go with it. Oh,
Listen, I'm
I
telling you
love it.
what, it worked. It worked. It really
I
worked for
love
us.
it. I gotta try role play. I've never done that.
Give it a
Oh,
shot.
I got a shot. All right. Number six. Would you rather have the ability to read your partner's mind during sex or be able to control their sensations with just a touch?
Read their mind.
Read their mind. I don't
Because
know.
I
I'd be
always
a
wonder
little
what
scared
people
sometimes.
I wonder what people are thinking during sex. Like, are they
Yeah.
into me or are they thinking of like, okay, we got to hurry up because the game is on in 10 minutes?
Yes.
You know what I
Yes.
mean? Like, I'd like to know they're into it if they're
Yeah.
actually into it. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's good too. Number seven, trying new positions or mastering the classics.
Why does it have to be one or the other? Okay, new positions.
New
New-
positions.
yeah.
Number eight, would you rather create characters based on your fantasies or characters inspired by real life? I mean, we kind of answered this
My
during
fantasies for sure.
fantasies.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. Number nine, slow dancing in the living room or spontaneous dance moves in the kitchen.
Oh, I love dancing in the kitchen. I think that's so much fun, especially when you're cooking and you
Yeah,
guys are
and you got a
kind of
glass of wine and the music's
yeah,
going. I do
yeah.
too. I
Yeah,
love
no,
that.
that's my choice, the
Good
kitchen.
one. And the last one, tease to build anticipation, or do you go straight for the fireworks?
No, teasing.
Teasing.
Teasing. As far as I'm concerned, it starts like even days before you actually
Yeah.
see each other. The mental games and the even texting back and forth can be really erotic. This
Mm.
one guy, the guy that I've told you about, who's I'm sort of dating now, he leaves me voicemails.
Oh, like is
Voice,
that like the little the voice memos that he sends
yeah,
over? Okay, okay.
yeah. And he
Yeah.
just kind of and just hearing his voice and just, it's just
Yeah.
it's yeah. It starts in the mind. It all
Y-
starts in the mind.
Yeah, you're right. There's something to be said about those voice memos because I do remember when I was doing, the online dating and talking to somebody in text, and then they'd send a voice memo. And man, when you hear that voice, then you're like, ooh, that just kind of upped it. You can get a little more interest. That's a very, very cool little technique there. So that's good.
So for me, it's teasing, but it's also the building and the anticipation.
Yeah.
And then you might go straight to it. I don't know when
Right,
you
right.
see this presence, but I need the emotional, psychological build up for me.
Yeah.
That's part of the thrill. I think.
Absolutely. Well, that was fun to play. Thank you for playing that. I always get a little bit
Thank
of, oh, see, Miss Stepmom didn't know that one. Get a little something, something out of
I
everybody.
really hope he doesn't somehow come across this and go, "Oh my God, that was me."
Well, I'm always like, you know what? If you're willing to do it, you gotta be willing to hear about it. So
I might
that's
write about it one day. You know what?
yeah,
That might be
yeah,
I should. One of my
good.
taboo things is
Yeah, a little role
this
play.
this really sexy, hot 6'5" bodyguard based in London who has all these different taboo experiences in hotels. I
How
don't
fun
know.
is that? Oh, I'd read that one. I'd read it.
Okay, great.
Oh, great. Well, thank you again for joining me today. I wanted to have you on here because, first of all, your books are amazing and you're doing so well. To have 30 books out is just incredible. But also for exactly what you gave me, which was, just letting people know how relationships can come about and how you can engage in them. And, I think they can learn a lot from your books too, just finding new, different routes of wherever they are in their lives and just relate to it some way. So I think that's really,
Thank
really cool. So thank you once again. Loved having you. And to everyone out there, please go check out all these amazing books that she has. You can find them on Amazon. Everything will be in the description of the episode. So take a look and check it out. They're just fabulous. So thank
you.
you for that. And you guys, you can find me on any major streaming platform as you are, and you can check me out on social media at from.mrs.to.ms. You can email me with any questions, concerns, suggestions, or things that you just want me to talk about at info@frommrs.to.ms.net. So thanks again for joining me this week, you guys. We'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Perfect. Yay. That
Wow,
was
that was
great.
fun.
That was fun, right? And that was
That
right
was
at
fun.
an
I was so
hour. That was
nervous.
perfect.
I
No,
was nervous. I'm
you
like,
did.
I'm gonna sound like a rambling idiot because
No,
it's
you did great. You did great. And
okay.
no, it was really good and relatable because I tried to, like I said, just find guests that, I like to shake it up and do different things. I've had a lot of relationship coaches and therapists, it tends to become, the same thing over and over, or you're getting, different communication differently. And sometimes that worries me that I'm giving too much, like from one coach to another coach to another coach, because everybody sees things differently. So that
Right.
was fun to have you on there and kind of, yeah, that was great. And the fact that you're dating, that was all really good. So thank you so much.
It's funny. Yeah, it's kind of funny how it all kind of comes together, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of funny because sometimes I feel like I'm in one of my novels in a weird way, like
Yeah.
my damaged heroine who enters this new relationship with this very understanding guy, and I'm like,
Yeah.
God, it's never really going to happen, but here we are.
You never know. You never know. So go with it. That's exciting. I hope that works out for you. That's
And
very
you
cool.
too. I hope your guy kind of, you know,
Girl, it's just so different
how
for
did you meet
me.
him?
I met him
Online?
online on Facebook dating. Yeah.
Hmm.
And I mean, we hit it off, but at first I was like, oh, the chemistry's there because he's like very attractive. He's got the body, everything, tall, all the good things. But I was like, oh, I just don't know that we're compatible. And then, he's just been like, well, I'd love to see you again. And I'm like, and then I did. And I mean, by the third date, he was telling me, he's like, I am just falling for you. And I'm like, oh, no, no, it's like freaked me out. But God, he's just showing me a different way to love, which is so nice. Everything I do, he puts me first. He just puts me
Hmm.
first. And he makes me feel safe and, all these things. But I'm in my standoffish mode. The
Hmm.
last relationship, the guy cheated on me the whole time. So it's just, I'm just skeptical. I know. And I'm just, he's just ruined it. Right. I'm just skeptical about things he says. And I'm like, how can you be, love me that soon? And, but
Hmm.
time.
Well, that's it.
Time.
And sort of reaching the point where we realize we do deserve to be with somebody who is
Yeah.
honest and doesn't play games and is straightforward and knows what he wants and what he
Yeah.
wants with us. And that's just the end of it. And the thing
Yeah.
is, they don't wait forever. Like they have their own pride where they sort of say, you know
Yep.
what, I've given it my best shot. You're not ready. I can't,
Yeah.
you know? And that's kind of the
Yeah.
danger with guys like that is they know their worth too. So,
100%. And he
and it's
says that he's put in the work for the last 3 years. He has been putting in the work. And he's like,
years.
Andrea, I've done the work. And he goes, I know what I want. And I know it. And he's just told me, he's like, I know I'm going to marry you at some point. He told my kid, I know. He told my kids, he's like, I'm going to marry your mom at some day. I'm just saying, he goes, I just know it. I see it. I see who she is. I see her for who she is. And he goes, I prayed for her and and
She's
I'm
here.
like, okay, and I'm
Well,
very straight up with him too. I just say, hey, I'm a slow mover. I'm like, time helps me get in a better spot, but I've said I'm not there yet. I really enjoy hanging out with you. I'm just trying to keep it very honest, but you're right. At some point he could be like, all right, it's been long enough. And if you don't see the value in me, that is he thinks I don't see the value in him. And
that's always the danger.
yeah.
Where, I mean, I mean, I haven't been standoffish with this man at
Yeah.
all,
You went all in.
because I
Yeah.
took the 10 months to be standoffish. You know
Yes.
what I mean? Like, I took
Mhm.
the 10 months and really prioritized myself and focused
Yeah.
on myself. And I did all the hard work,
So
and I
smart.
worked all the crap, and I worked
Yep.
through all the anger and the blame, and why didn't I see, and why didn't I, the whole why
Yeah.
didn't I, right? Or
Yep.
why did I? And the whole blame and the whole thing. And then I was so furious at myself for having even gotten into that kind of situation. Because how
Yeah.
do educated women who are
Step
smart,
in
how do they
that.
get into those situations? And it's just, how did this happen? It doesn't happen to people
Yeah.
like, well, it happens to everybody,
Yep.
and I've written about how it happens to everybody. I know
Yeah.
to everybody. Then when it happens to you, you think, well, I'm immune. Why aren't I?
Yep.
Like, I'm supposed to be immune. Everybody, it happens to everybody else, but not to me, right? Well, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I'm somebody else. I'm somebody else to somebody else, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they think it happened to
Oh,
them, it
that's
happened
right.
to
Yeah.
somebody else. So that would be me, right?
Yep.
Um, and then once I kind of got through all that, and I sort of refocused, and I actually got to the point where I was so happy in my life. Like, I am
Mhm.
so happy in my life. Like, I, at some point every day, I say to myself out loud, I am so happy, because it's just,
Oh,
my house is peaceful.
yeah.
I can do what I want. I don't have to apologize for who I am. I can say what I think, and I don't have to worry about being screamed at for it, or name called, or backhanded for it.
Yeah.
I can just, I'm just so at peace. And suddenly this guy comes along who just has his life together, and who
Mm.
looks at me and says, I want you. I'm like,
And
whoa,
what
what
if
do you
like,
how did
how
you
cool
decide
is
so fast?
that?
And
Right?
he said, well, it just, I know what I'm looking for. And to be fair, so do I. I mean, I
Yeah.
can look at him and see it. Why
Yeah.
can't he look at me and see it? It does go both ways.
Yeah.
Just sometimes hard to believe it when you have been so devalued for so
Yeah.
long, that even though you've moved past it, it
Mhm.
is a little bit of a default setting, unfortunately.
Yeah, it
A little
is
bit.
hard. It's very hard when he's
Yeah.
just, and they're like, I just love you so much. I feel, I see you for who you are. You're just like, but why, because you're so stuck in that. Why didn't the other person see that? Like, and so you believe that yourself. Like,
Yeah.
wow, really? I find myself doing that. Really? That's what you see in me?
Yeah.
It's just, but yeah, it's just working on yourself. But I do enjoy being by myself a lot too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
it's a
it's
hard one.
just about believing that they're looking at us with the right kind of eyes.
Yeah.
Like, we just have to
Yeah.
believe that they're looking at us and they're
The
seeing
honest eyes, yeah.
something that is genuine and,
Mhm.
um, yeah, honest. Like, they're looking at
Yeah.
us with better eyes than we see ourselves.
Yeah.
And I think that that is something we just have to accept,
Yep.
that people will see us as better than we see ourselves always.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
so we just have to trust that sometimes.
Yep. Well, here we go. We're doing
One for both of us.
it. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for joining me. And I will, it'll probably be, what are we in May? It'll probably be June when the episode's out. We're in May,
Okay.
right? June, yeah, a little bit
It's like
later in
May
June, I think.
22nd. Yeah.
Yeah, I just try to mix them up. It just depends on what I had the week before so that they're kind of, being mixed up. So it's not the same thing every week, but I will
Mhm.
definitely give you a heads up and send you the episode and I'll create a few clips for you to post and everything. So
Great.
it should be
Thank you.
good.
You're my
Absolutely.
first pot. You've popped my podcast cherry.
Yay. Ooh,
That's
yeah.
encouraging. And it was a lot more fun than I thought it would be. It was
Good.
great. You're a great host.
Oh,
You're
thank
very
you.
easy to talk to.
Thank
You're
you.
very bright and positive. You bring a great energy, and
Thank
you've got a
you.
beautiful smile. So
Thank you.
it's really nice to talk to you. It's beautiful. It was
Wonderful.
beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. I love it. Thank you for saying that. I really appreciate it. So you were a great guest. So you didn't leave me hanging, and that's the most important thing. It was easy. You were giving me easy ways to segue into something else. So thank you for that.
Well, if you ever want me back, let me know.
You got it.
I'll be happy to come back and talk about some more role play.
I love it. I know. Maybe that's our topic. I need a
We
good
didn't get
role
through all the
play.
questions. You
I
still have another
know.
3 questions or something to get through. I don't have the sheet in front of me, but
Oh,
yeah.
no, I did them all. I think I
Did you do
did.
them all?
Yeah, I think except maybe the last one. The last one I just didn't do. The biggest misconception
Oh
was
yeah,
the
about
timing.
romance
Yeah.
writing.
But yeah, I'll go check
Well,
out your book, and then
if you want
maybe
me
we
back,
need to do it and do some role play topic because I've not done that yet. I need to find that. So that'd be fun.
let me know.
All right, girl.
I have some experiences there.
I love
Anyway,
it. Okay.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Talk
you.
soon.
Bye.
Goodbye.